After years of campaigning by both the fans and the actors who starred in the film, the Snyder Cut is finally here, and it is epic. Whether you want to use that term in the best way or the worst way, it is an epic. We have a lot to get through here, so let's get right down to it. It is the Everything is Permitted, Zack Snyder's Justice League Review Special, and we're going to get right to the Rotten Tomatoes score. On the critic side, 74%. Audience score, 96%. Now, this is somewhat of a stark contrast, and I say somewhat as far as the audience score, maybe not the critic score, to Whedon's take on the film, which received a 40% critic score and a 71% audience score. So does the Snyder Cut, the film that we just watched, reflect its new score?
I'm in between the two scores, if that makes any sense. Like, I wouldn't go as high as the audience, but yeah. So I will say I think it's better reflecting.
I'd probably lean more towards the critic score around that.
The critic score.
Yeah, like the 74%.
Of the new critic score.
Not the Whedon score.
Fuck the Whedon score. Literally, the music.
You guys know how I feel about the original Justice League. You know how I feel about Batman vs Superman. I am a Man of Steel sympathizer, but I do stand with this audience score. I fucking loved the Snyder Cut, and I was not expecting to love the Snyder Cut. I just wasn't. And maybe that is because, like Brittany said, and she was doing, I went in with zero expectations. Maybe not zero. I was a pretty big voice.
You were just hoping it should be better than the Whedon one, because if it's not, what's the point?
But I think it was better, and then some. I am very happy with it. We're going to get right into it. Matt, I want to start with you because I think out of the three of us, you're probably the biggest skeptic going into this.
So, all right, I know we're going to talk about the length and whatnot, and I will say that I'll admit this right now. Like, it is far better than the Whedon version, bar none. Blah 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 blah. I will fully admit that, and we'll cop to that. But it's almost not fair to compare the two movies because imagine if the Whedon version was 4 hours. What could you do? What could he do with the dialogue and certain scenes?
Even
and blah,
worse.
blah, blah, blah.
Even worse.
I mean, maybe not. But once again, though, is that when you give a director essentially endless money and everything to basically do certain things to a movie, put it together the way they want and such like that, of course it's going to be better because normally director's cuts are better than the theatrical releases and such like that.
See Blade Runner.
Yes, Blade Runner is definitely probably one of the biggest examples that most people can think of.
I think Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut as well.
Okay, yeah.
It's where they eat people.
But the thing is that at the end of the day, though, is that this movie, I had to slog through this movie. Part of it was the time that I watched it because I had to watch it in two-hour blocks just because I didn't have the ability to just sit and watch 4 hours straight of a goddamn movie. And I am happy that this movie developed Cyborg and even Steppenwolf to a point, and I hated what they did. I don't think Darkseid needs to be in this movie at all, period. And I'll fully admit that I didn't hate the movie like I thought I would, but I also don't think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread because it has like some of Snyder's issues, and there were parts of it that I definitely could see like, all right, you really could have cut this, man. And also the fact is that when they killed Steppenwolf, I remember I'm like, okay, the movie's done. I remember I paused it on my computer for a minute, and then I'm like, there's still 20 goddamn minutes, and I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? Like, what are they doing?
Well, all his Steppen sons show up, and then you got to fight them.
So yeah, obviously, out of the three of us, I'm probably gonna like it the least. But you know, I mean, I was always a huge skeptic going into it, and I'll fully admit that obviously colors my perceptions of it. But the thing is, though, is that
as dark as Snyder's colors.
But the thing is, though, is that I love DC,
right?
And that's the thing that most people don't understand is that it still upsets me because I still feel you could do these characters way better, and I do
them more justice.
God, Brittany,
I love you.
Thank you, Brittany. And the thing is that part of my disappointment is that this movie I wasn't as engrossed in this movie as say I was in Infinity War or even Endgame, which I know Brittany's going to get into when she talks about it.
It's okay, I'll allow it. I know I'm the outlier.
Yeah, but once again, is that I do think that repeated viewings of this movie won't be as favorable with a lot of people, because you're right now in your head, you're comparing it to the Whedon version. That's why you're going to think it's an amazing movie. And to a point, you're right. But if you view it on its own, I don't think it's as great as people say it is.
That's kind of how my ratings are. Like, compared to the Whedon version, this movie's a 10 out of 10 for me, because I'm like, this is by far better. Like, you can tell exactly what they kept, what they didn't, and what Whedoned up like he does. But then compared to all super movies that have come out, or like all movies in general, my rating is more like, okay, it's a like 7.5 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10, because it's great, but I still have my qualms with certain things. But like I said, compared to the Whedon one, I'm just like, fuck that version, never gonna think about it again. I hate that parts of it still live in my mind. So comparing it to the theatrical one this is why like all these ratings are as high as they are. So I like that. But I mean, you guys could read my live timeline of my reaction to this movie. I tried to keep it like spoiler free. It wasn't any like main stuff. But I was like, wow, it's so nice to watch this as a woman, and you don't have 10 ass shots of Wonder Woman. Like whenever she lands in an action pose,
All
it's
of
like
them are gone.
an upskirt from behind. Like they're all cut out. Like just, and you can tell. And Gal Gadot has mentioned many times that she like wasn't comfortable with Joss Whedon as a director and stuff. Like they had to be nice at the time, but she was like, yeah, I wasn't cool with this. I didn't like this. And she's the only female in a group of all this whole male superhero team, which is how it is in the comics mostly too. And you're just like, yeah, okay. So she had to do what she had to do on set, like most actresses have to. But yeah, I mean, when right away a lot of people watched Justice League and the whole cast was like, yeah, this isn't even remotely everything.
This is not the movie that we made.
This isn't what I agreed to, that sort of thing. That's why people wanted this cut. And like I always said, I would see it if it happened, whatever. I do agree with you that had he not had to leave the project, it obviously wouldn't have been a 4-hour movie. We wouldn't have gotten this specific version. This is once he got the funding and this like
The support.
more unlimited time frame to do it. So he probably wouldn't have got the exact same thing. That being said, I love that the tone doesn't shift back and forth. I'm not getting whiplash. The characters actually all feel like they have better characterization and growth. Like I hated the Wonder Woman, Batman sexual weird tension the first time.
Well, not even.
It was tension.
Well, yeah, the sexual tension sucked, and their tensions made no sense.
Well, everybody just fought with Batman for becoming a group, which made no sense. And I was just like, yeah, okay, you just want them to join together in the final act, whatever.
Well, Joss was like ripping Avengers off.
The whole movie was Avengers set up. But that being said, like I really loved the majority of this movie. I liked that Cyborg and the Flash, much better backstories and characterization.
Not only the backstory and characters, like they are the heart of the Snyder Cut.
They're a lot. Yeah. It's about them because they're the less developed characters. So like you already know Superman, you already know Batman, you already know Wonder Woman because she has her own movie, and then now she has another one. But they're like, here's the other members that then join, and now they're really a team. I loved seeing they felt like a team. When they fight in the third act, like I loved all the action there. The fact that they could do things without talking to each other. And the way they flowed together, like that's some of the stuff I wanted from the first Avengers movie that we didn't get, except for like a circle around view. And not that I'm going to compare this to Avengers, because like this is 10 years apart now or more, and like
2012, we're getting
basically,
there. Yeah.
So it's like not fair to compare them. But the only main thing that really bothered me is just the fact that Zack Snyder, he's such a visual director, right? We all know this. We've seen Watchmen, 300, like everything he's done. He's visual. And it's like, if you're going to be that visual, you also don't need to explain what your visuals are. And this is what was the only part of the movie that I really didn't like. Like, I was fine with pretty much everything else. A few goofy things here and there where I'm like, yeah, that wasn't necessary. Like someone walking in slow motion with their coffee with a stupid song on top of it that wasn't really necessary. Like, I got the vibe. It was beautifully shot, obviously. Cinematography great, but I was just like, it wasn't necessary. But it's just like the exposition dump. And like Wonder Woman got so much of this, most of her dialogue in the movie is exposition dump. And I'm like, I get you didn't have to develop her more because she has her own films, but like, whew. I know why she knows how to, like, what a flaming arrow means. You don't have to go back and be like, well, this god, blah, 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 and explain how an arrow can reach here from somewhere else. So I know that they wanted to do it because many other DC films fans were like, I don't understand. You never explained this. Why does the Joker look that way? And then retroactively, the directors say, oh, it's because Batman bashed his face in after he killed Jason Todd. And it's like, well, that would have been a cool flashback. So he did show, and tell, which is not what you should do. It's like, you show, or you tell, or you can show and tell, but you can't do all of that at once. Right. So it worked sometimes. Other times I was like, oh, okay.
So I think out of the three of us, you're the biggest skeptic. I'm probably the biggest supporter of this project. I think that's pretty clear. I didn't donate money or anything, but I know a lot of
He's
people.
like, I don't have any Snyder Cut T-shirts. Don't get me wrong.
There's like that fan. There was fan campaign. There was money raised. I get it. I did not do that.
People can listen to our previous podcast and they know where we all stood to begin with. We were all like, we'll watch it, but was it necessary?
But I will say that when Joss Whedon's film came out, and as much as I hated it, as soon as that hashtag started releasing the Snyder Cut, I've always retweeted it, and I've always been a big supporter of him being able to finish his work. Just because I as an artist, as someone who does this podcast, who's acted, I just think that that's a very important thing to be able to do, especially with the circumstances of why he had to leave. It's not like he got fired.
And it's not like he was just like, I don't feel like it.
Yeah, literally his daughter killed herself, and it's unfortunate, and it is a shitty situation, and to be able to come back and finish his work, I am super proud of it. I'm also going to say, and you could read in my review, I am not like a Zack Snyder fanboy. I hated Watchmen. I love 300. I love Man of Steel. Batman vs. Superman is probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Martha.
But I'm one of the people that love his visual style. I think it's very unique. I think it's very cool. I do like how he drains colors. That's just something I dig. I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, and I will say, listen,
or a cup of coffee.
If you have watched his films and you have not liked his style, you are probably not going to love the Snyder Cut.
You're not going to like any of his films and style.
That's the thing. Like that, it's not going to be for you. As someone who likes that style and likes what he does with film, this was everything to me, and I'm so happy for it. I was talking to Brittany directly after I watched it. I'm not surprised anymore at all why Ray Fisher was so vocal on Twitter about getting this movie made, because it's his movie. Like this is a cyborg story now. This isn't a Batman and Superman story anymore. This is a cyborg story. This is a Barry Allen story. And I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it, how much they get to shine and how fucking boss Cyborg looks in this. The CG was so bad on him in Whedon's version. Like, talk about Mustache Gate, talk about his CG.
Yeah.
I mean, the CG in Justice League altogether fucking sucks.
Yeah, and you could tell some scenes where it's like, this was made definitely under Snyder, and then it would cut to Whedon, like, last-minute reshoot, and you're like, well, this is why it looks like shit, because you brought him back to reshoot the scene, and he doesn't even wear the black suit, which is what people saw behind the scenes of for literally years leading up to it, and we never got the black suit.
Everything that they did to take the stupid tension out of this movie, the stupid humor out of this movie, just makes me so happy. And the way they deal with Clark coming back, and I know it's a stupid thing to keep talking about, but it's a big deal when you're talking about the most popular superhero in the world in Superman, and you do him such a disrespect with that bad CG in Justice League, to not have to see that ever again.
Do you bleed?
Yeah,
he doesn't need to tell Batman, do you bleed? He knows he bleeds. He's fucking immortal. That's the point.
Like, the fact that you don't need to see that lip anymore, that he was able to reshoot all of that. And my favorite moment of this film is him getting the black suit. Something we all wanted to see. But reusing that dialogue from Man of Steel with Pa Kent and Jor-El, just... oh, so good. I'm so happy this movie's out. I don't know how I'll feel watching it a second time. I don't know if I necessarily want to watch it a second time. I'm like, it's long. I've watched Endgame maybe 3 or 4 times. I don't know if I necessarily need to go back and watch Endgame again. I don't.
I just love how people look at me when they say Endgame, and I'm just like, true. You know my thoughts. I don't have to say it again.
And I do want to say, like, it is something that we need to talk about, is the length of this film. It's 4 hours and 2 minutes long. I'm actually going to go first here and say, I know you guys are talking about, like, had this been released in 2017, had it been Snyder's Cut, it still wouldn't have been 4 hours long. I don't have a problem with it being, I've made a definitive decision. I don't have a problem with it being 4 hours long because of the situation we're in right now. You can get away with it because we're in a pandemic. Mm-hmm. People have the time to sit at home to either do it in one sitting like Brittany and I did, or if you did, split it in 2 and 2. Like, people aren't doing anything.
You can watch it per act. Part 1.
And that's how HBO Max is going to release it in the first place. They were going to do it in 6 episodes, which would have been a fucking nightmare. Would not have been okay with that. It works for 2020, 2021 because we're in a pandemic, and I don't have a problem with the time. Yeah, could it have been edited down a little bit more to maybe like 3.5 hours? Definitely. Does it kill me that it's 4 hours and 2 minutes? No. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, to me, it didn't feel like 4 hours. I was actually surprised. And one thing, I didn't pause it, so I guess not seeing the timestamp at the bottom didn't, like, mess me up to be like, how is this happening?
Oh, my God.
But I got, like, especially once it went past, like, part 3 and it went to part 4, I was like, oh, there's going to be 6 parts because there's 6 members of the Justice League. And if you notice, each part kind of focuses on another character a little more than the others, but it's all pretty well balanced. The only time I did realize, like, oh, we're still not done yet, is when it immediately went to epilogue after part 6, because we're used to the Marvel stuff and other movies where they have you watch the credits, then you get the bonus stuff. But I knew, like, watching the epilogue and why it feels so long there is I was just like, this is Zack Snyder throwing in everything he can, because he's like, if this will ever get picked up, or if I was to do my stuff, this plot thread's going to take to this film, this is going to take to this film, this is going to take to that. So I was like, I get that.
I just want to sidebar on that real quick, because the epilogue is the only thing that really threw me off a little bit, in the sense, like, okay, I really would have loved this movie to end.
Oh, if it just cut off with that epilogue?
as soon as Bruce woke up from the nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
I would have loved credits. I did not need to see Martian Manhunter at the end.
That's the one part that I'm like, his cameo earlier in the film is fine. Like,
Yeah,
he
exactly.
didn't need to show up again.
No.
And that was just that was them trying to do like an Avengers setup.
That
where it's
was
like
supposed
Nick
to
Fury.
be not John Jones, Hal Jordan. The second
time. That makes sense.
Hal Jordan's
As Green Lantern.
which one's the black one? It's Hal Jordan, right?
They're both black.
No,
Hal Jordan is the black
There's
Green Lantern.
John.
Yes, that's what
Yeah.
I mean.
Sorry, I thought I was like, Johns is the black version of
Oh no, not Hal Jordan. I'm thinking of
John Mars. No,
John, because Diggle.
John Stewart.
John Stewart.
Yes.
Okay, there we
That's
go.
it,
Yeah.
John Stewart,
So I was going to
yes.
say John Stewart is the black Green Lantern.
Yeah,
John Johns is the
that's
black
what
persona of
Yes, thank you. That's what I didn't
Yeah.
mean like.
No,
dark,
it's fine. Yeah.
Um,
Well, I was just like confused because I was like, do you mean both characters aren't?
Warner said that Snyder couldn't put Green Lantern in. So
Well, he probably wasn't allowed to.
No,
right?
they basically said, we have plans for Green Lantern. We want to introduce him in our own way.
Oh, yeah.
Can we compromise?
So
And
he was
like,
just like, okay.
we'll do Martian Manhunter. So
And that's why it's awkward. And it makes sense.
yeah.
I have so much to say about this movie. But anyway, I just want to say that the Snyder Cut, it also does more for so many other characters. I loved seeing the Amazon opening was so much better this time. Like, a lot of it is the same, but like it's what's added to it. Some of their costumes are actually better. So I don't know if they reshot some scenes.
They
Because
did.
like the first thing I was pissed about in Justice League is even just like seeing the pictures behind the scenes for it. I was like, what the fuck did they sexualize the Amazon
So
armor
much.
again? Because you see Wonder Woman, they're these tough women. Like, yeah, there's sometimes their midriff is showing or whatever, but like it served a purpose. It literally matched armor for women. Like, they studied this.
Yeah.
The person that made the costumes for Wonder Woman was like, this is where it is in history. I'm bringing it back and putting my own twist on it. And then Justice League happened. I was like, so you're just making them look hot for the sake of being hot. I'm a gay woman, okay? I already find the Amazons hot
I
as
saw
shit.
your tweet. Like,
Yeah.
I'm looking
Also-
respectfully.
Why the fuck do the hottest Amazons gotta die?
Yeah.
I digress. You guys know I have a thing for like dark-haired girls, but still.
Jennifer Connelly.
But the Hammerzons, I was like, yes, this makes. And it was all
Hammerzons.
more dramatic. It built up. You really felt like Steppenwolf was a threat this time, because like he still was like a big bad, but like the way he like tears through them and does stuff. And I know it's because it's rated R and you could have like blood and all these different things, but you really felt like the Amazons are going like they're going fucking hard to protect this. Like you felt like this is their culture. This is how they are. They will fight. They will give their lives. They will let themselves be crushed by stone to protect their leader. Like, so much awesome shit. And then one thing I got to bring up is the waitress scene for Cyborg. That is something they shot originally for the original film. Joss Whedon removed that. The actress on Twitter, the only reason I know this is because the actress on Twitter was so shocked because she's like, people are tagging me. They're saying I'm in the Snyderverse. Like, I'm in the Snyder Cut. She was like, I was supposed to be in Justice League. I filmed the whole thing. It was supposed to be a huge part of Cyborg's story. She's like, am I the waitress? Like, is that what they kept? Like, did they keep this whole scene? And I was like, yeah, and that part literally made me, like, moved me to tears. Because you see Cyborg, he learns he has all this power, he can control, he can do whatever he wants, he can hack in, he could blow up the world if he wants to, and, like, as cheesy as
I love that
some of
scene.
the shit is, like, where the bear's fighting the bull, whatever. Like, that's a visual for the audience to be like, I get it, stock market. But the fact that he sees this person who's struggling, this mother, has these kids, and he's just like, she's the one that deserves money. This world is so fucked up, and I have the power to change somebody's life for the better, and just does it, and all without saying anything. It makes more sense that he stands aside and watches this woman get her money from the ATM, and like, I was moved to tears.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit,
Same.
they took you out of the movie for what? So Cyborg looks less human?
Yeah.
So you finally see all the scenes that he was just like, yeah, I look like a fucking cardboard cutout of a human.
It's
because that's
amazing.
What we did.
It is amazing how much they make this movie about him, and he gets to, like, Ray Fisher just gets to shine. I love it. Matt, I'm sorry because we got a little off topic. I know that you specifically also wanted to touch on the time of the film.
It is long because there is some stuff that they could have cut out and still kept this movie
Easily
focused into what it was. The nightmare thing, I kind of was like, because I hated it in the original cut.
I like that you didn't have to see Batman's first premonition.
Yeah.
I was like, cool. I didn't need that. I was like, oh, he just says it.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, as well, I'm still not a fan of them putting Darkseid in there in any way, shape, or form because I thought he looked terrible. I didn't like his CG at all.
I liked it.
But my thing with Darkseid is that I've always viewed Darkseid as the dude is very just confident and just like, I'll just fucking kill you. That's his thing. Like, they made him more animalistic in this, where he's like, ah! Like, he does all that. And most media, most of the animated stuff, he's portrayed as the whole, like,
well,
I
he
have
stands
plans
with his hands behind his back and he just talks at you like,
yeah, and he's just,
yeah.
and I honestly, part of me wishes they had gotten Michael Ironside to just do the voice because that dude still has the Darkseid voice to me because I can never picture anybody else's voices in it.
I don't know, man. Seeing Granny Goodness, like, even though they fucking spoil it in the trailers and behind the scene pictures, I wish they wouldn't have done any of those teaser things leading up to it because I would have screamed out loud if I, like, randomly when it showed Darkseid and them turn around at the end and, like, oh, we're gonna, like, come after them the old-fashioned way. I'd be like, is that Granny fucking Goodness? I would have lost my fucking mind.
But I really liked the Darkseid stuff. I thought it made the stakes bigger because there were no stakes in Justice League.
But showing him getting beat by all that alliance and everything, that to me takes away his whole, like, this dude is a legit powerful threat. And I know it's like, oh, there was literal gods, like Darkseid, and I know it's a quote younger Darkseid, which whatever. But to me, imagine a Marvel movie where you see Thanos get his ass kicked when he's younger, and you're just like, okay, the big bad that you're building to just got his ass whooped by this group of people.
I mean, Carol almost took him out by herself. I mean, on 2 occasions. She wrestled him.
And Wanda.
True. Thanos is a chump, but we know how I feel about him.
But once again, though, I'm talking about prior to the build-up in the movies and stuff like that. Like, because it takes away from the threat of this villain if you never see him. Because once again, you could have just built towards it. You could have just had maybe like you have a boom to it and you just see like 2 glowing eyes real quick or something like that, and kind
of like how they did at the end of Avengers with Thanos. Or
I just feel like no matter how they did it, people would be like, oh, this is DC's Thanos. Like, they did the flashback to show why the mother boxes were ever on Earth to begin with, and the fact of, like, why would he have been there was for the anti-life equation, and the only reason he's not as powerful and he isn't Darkseid yet is because he didn't get access to the anti-life equation, and he doesn't even have the Omega beams or anything, so he's not even Darkseid at that point.
But my thing is, though, as well, is that as soon as he learns the anti-life equation on Earth, he would have been all over that. Like, he'd be like, we're invading, like, right now. Like, boom tubes, we're opening up and we're coming in, because that is the one thing Darkseid wants,
right?
More than anything else. He even says, like, I got 100,000 worlds looking for this shit. Like, so the moment that they had told him the anti-life equation is on Earth, he would have, like, the Darkseid I know would have been like, we're coming right now. Like, there's none of this. Let's see if Steppenwolf can pull this out.
Well, Darkseid also didn't know that Steppenwolf was doing until, like, midway through, I think, both.
Well, yeah,
or
he only
midway
told
through
him
this
when he
movie.
confirmed where it was when he found it. And the thing is, he was doing the Unity to create a portal for them to walk through, and then the Justice League, like, makes it shut by separating.
Yeah, because the reason that Steppenwolf was doing this was to get in the good graces.
Yeah,
because he didn't want to, like,
and that
prematurely blow his load.
That also is something that I also kind of, like, wasn't a fan of, because I think they established that Steppenwolf, quote, betrayed Darkseid. Darkseid would have just fucking killed him if he did that, because Darkseid has no fucking place for people who are disloyal. Like, he's fine with them betraying each other. Like, he's totally cool with that. Like, oh yeah, betray each other.
I felt like it was more like a Megatron Starscream thing where he's just like, yeah, okay, go off into your shit, Steppenwolf. We'll see if it actually pays
That's
out.
funny you made that comparison.
Well, that's what it felt like.
No,
so
it's a good
when
comparison.
they cut his head and it went through the portal and he just kind of looks at it, he's just like,
an idiot.
And he was like, well, we knew he wasn't going to probably
Some people
do it anyway.
thought that finale of how they killed Steppenwolf in the Snyder Cut was, like, over the top, and I was like, it was over the top, but it was so fucking
It's like
good.
Waking up to see a horse head in your bed.
It was just so good. I know that I kind of already talked about my favorite moment. It was the Amazon
Not my favorite.
or Cyborg.
I was going to say My favorite moment in the whole entire film is the fact that Flash gets a bigger Superman moment than Superman does. And, I mean, you can argue the same. It's Cyborg and Flash together. They both have these, like, epic, like, moments where it's like they are heroes. I love that the Flash didn't hesitate to be a hero in this one. He saves Iris West because he knows it's the right thing to do, and also, like, he's interested in her.
Thank God that scene got restored, too. Even though the music was
I just hated, like, in the Joss Whedon version, like, yeah, it's cool that Batman's like, just save one life and then see how you feel about it. But the hesitancy and all this, he knows he's superpowered. Like, he would do the right thing. He saved somebody from being held up in a store. Why would he hesitate to save hostages in an alien situation? Whatever. That's all fixed and remedied in this one, because right away he's like, boom, boom, boom. He helps shove someone into a wall at super speed, fucking kills him. And I'm like, cool. He's not just like shaking in his boots like, oh, can I save one hostage? Fuck that. Anyway, when he, and I know this is going to happen because like when he's circling around so fast that he's literally almost in the same place at the same time.
What a fucking cool effect.
Yeah, and he was waiting for Cyborg to say one. I knew when he didn't say one and like stuff was converging, I'm like, well, obviously he's going to have to go back in time. So that way when he does say one, he's actually there in time. That sort of thing. But when he starts going so fast that when he taps in the Speed Force, I mean, they fixed the way he runs. Like, it's still, like, loose and stuff, but he doesn't look like he's fucking slipping on soap in this one and stuff, because people were making fun of the way his arms flip. But when he, like, sets it up and he, like, knows, he's like, shit, the world is ending, I gotta, like, go as fast as possible, he thinks he's gonna die doing it, because so many times Barry Allen has died going so fucking fast, like, Crisis on Infinite Earths shit, where he just, like, destroys himself, rips himself apart, but like he's running so fast that makes sense why he goes back in time and is able to actually tell like Batman in that moment like it's Lois, that's the key, blah 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 blah. But like seeing every time his foot hits the ground, he literally materializes, like matter comes back in time around him. Like that is the most beautiful Speed Force shit that you only see in comics. So I've been waiting for this. It's a shame I didn't wear my Flash shirt today. I wore it to school. I wore it to work. It's funny because when I looked at this, I thought of 2011 Brittany. I was in school, like my brain. But I wore it to work yesterday, and it's like the cover from New 52 where he's like running like this. It's such an awesome shirt.
I love that cover.
And it's my favorite Flash cover. And I used to be a huge Flash fan before like the TV show and stuff happened. I just kind of like I wasn't into it anymore. But like seeing that, like I was like, this is a Flash. As much as I like don't like the quirky like when he meets Batman and he's just like, I need friends, like whatever. I'm like, I get that's like how you want to portray him, but like I was hoping that was cringy like Joss Whedon stuff you're gonna cut out, but that's like the one scene I didn't have a problem. I'm fine with all the rest of his jokes.
Some of his, see, that's funny because some of them I was like, that could have been cut.
Imagine if Batman like was wrong about Flash and just buried some batarang right into some kid's face.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Oh shit, I was wrong.
He knew though. He always detectives first.
I love that they showed Cyborg and Superman's bodies like from like the bone up being like reassembled during that.
Well, that was the cool part because like not only is like the matter around him forming, but like everybody's coming back into formation from being destroyed.
Yeah, it's so cool. Matt, did you have a favorite scene from the Snyder Cut?
As I said, I still, even though it was also still in the Whedon version, and I still love it to death. Is the scene when Superman gets resurrected and Flash realizes he's just as fast.
No, yeah, I still love that scene.
Because right when he starts turning to look at him, that's when
the eye shift and he's
so
like, oh
good.
fuck, because nobody's ever been fast enough to see him, so he's like, oh fuck. Like, I remember that was the one thing from the original version that I did love.
Yeah,
and the fact that you're just like, oh shit.
Although once again though, I don't think anybody gives a shit about secret identities because like when he's hovering there and there's like police, she's like Clark.
Oh yeah,
and it's just like God damn it.
Him and Batman are just fucked. Everybody knows who they are at this point.
Oh yeah,
but
because
but this version of Batman, it's so like he's been doing it for so many years that it makes sense.
Well, because he says he was at Gotham for 20 years, I think, at one point. And also the thing that still drives me nuts is his goddamn voice modulator when he's in this.
Yeah.
God damn it.
All right, guys.
I did mention earlier that like the whole film, well, for a good portion of the film, he's just Bruce Wayne, like walking around doing shit, right? Yeah. So you're so used to his normal voice, and you're like, I'm buying this. Like I feel like you're more Bruce Wayne and Batman-y this time. And then as soon as he switches to the suit, and then he does that, I was like, what happened to your voice?
Which is so weird because Ben Affleck has a good Batman voice. He can do Bruce Wayne and Batman, so that has been a weird choice.
Yeah, I feel like they just did that so he'd be a different thing. Yeah. So they're not like, oh, he just Christian Bale'd it.
Guys, let's talk about all the key differences from Whedon's version.
There's two. There's like too many to list.
The biggest one is the return of, now this is kind of a controversial topic because he's a douchebag and asshole in real life, but Jared Leto's return as the Joker in this movie. I think Brittany and I agree on this. Some of the best Batman Joker things that we've been waiting to see on screen.
It's not like comic accurate Batman Joker,
No.
but it was a cool like sort of interaction. Like part of me is still like Batman would still never say that to the Joker, no matter how angry. Like Jason Todd died.
Did you read Last Night on Earth?
Does he do like? Well, that's when he's carrying his head around.
Yeah.
And they're constantly bickering, like they're like a fucking old married couple. But I mean, Joker knows the fact that Batman says all this shit, and he's like, "But I know you're not telling the truth." Like, yeah, sure, you promised Harley, you're still not gonna kill me. Like, the fact that they have that, I was like, accurate. But this is a whole like alternate timeline thing, so I was like, this makes more sense. Nightmare.
I didn't need to see it. I mean, yeah, it's nice to see the banter, but I have no interest in seeing a Jared Leto Joker going forward. I know we're not going to get a Ben Affleck Batman going forward. I know it's alternate universe shit, but what does it do in service of the main plot?
Well, this would have been Justice League 2 and 3. And maybe we're going to get those. Maybe not. We'll talk about that near the end of the show.
Yeah.
This scene gave me my first ever kind of like regret that we're probably never going to see these two on screen together, because as much as I hated how they portrayed him in Suicide Squad, the script for that, he was not very good. I got chills watching him as the Joker in this. The laugh scared the fuck out of me. And this
I thought the laugh was just stupid.
I don't know. I think I think it works though, because it's almost Jared Leto, which is kind of fucked up to say too, because he is an asshole. But I don't know. The dialogue.
The real joke is Jared Leto all the way.
I love the dialogue between them, and I do love that when Bruce is like, "And I will fucking kill you," and I was like,
yeah.
I like it. I really like this.
Go ahead.
That doesn't carry him saying like, "I'll fucking kill you" or whatever. Doesn't carry weight, because I've seen Batman fucking kill people in these movies, while versus the normal Batman who doesn't kill.
I still think that like the Arkham games, Batman and Joker stuff is still like the best relationship outside of comics I've seen. I like this scene because it gives them potential where you're like, I can at least believe in this alternate future that they've been at each other like for fucking 20 years, you know? Like I could sense it. I was like, this is at least believable. But still at that point I was just like, dude, you know you're fucking spitting shit right now just to look tough in front of anybody else, but you're not going to kill the Joker.
Right.
Because like he said, I'm your best friend. Like, you're
your
nothing
best
without
friend.
me. Like that shit.
Obviously this whole sequence was added and shot just a few months ago, the Nightmare sequence. Part of the reason he shot this is because this would have set up Justice League 2 and 3. I don't know if I need it in the movie, but I don't have a problem with it. Like, this is probably something
it's just
that,
like
that
there's
could
going
have
to be
been
an
cut.
alternate timeline where like, this shit went down.
I like this is one of the few things that I did like about Batman and Superman. I liked seeing this kind of fucked up, like, apocalyptic future. So did it need to be shown again in here? No, but we got it, and we got to see the Joker Batman scene, so I'm fine with it.
I just want to mention one thing I did really like, apart from so many things I didn't like in the first one. When Martha goes to visit Lois in the Joss Whedon version, it is the scene that to this day I hate the most out of that. Because it's supposed to be this really emotional scene where she visits her at work, and they're talking about this mutual like loss of Clark and Superman on top of that, and the fact that they had like this weight that they're carrying, which they did so much better in this version. The fact that it was really Martian Manhunter like the whole time, because he's trying to help Lois in that way that he's like, this conversation needs to be had, and you two are just so messed up right now you haven't even met. Like, that was cooler. In the Joss Whedon version, when she visits her at work, there's a stupid fucking news thing on TV where this woman's like, my husband got taken by an alien and he got like ass probed, and it's like this it's this whole thing where like literally he's trying to do this like edgy humor, and it's like in the background, and it keeps messing it up because I'm like, this is literally such an emotional scene between these two actresses, which like they can carry this on their own. They're that like, it's the fact that she doesn't have an Oscar still to this day fucking astounds me, because whether you like her or not,
Diane Lane or Amy Adams?
Amy Adams. It's just like, holy shit. But seeing that in this version, I was like, oh my God, they actually have them talk. It was what it needed to be. It's what she needed to hear to like hopefully move on or whatever. And whether or not, you know, she goes to visit the grave last time and then plot twist, she doesn't have to move on. It's whatever. It had to happen. But man, when he like leaves and then you're just like, when she paused for a second at the door, I was just like, and then it's Martian Manhunter, and I was just like, that was a cool way to
It worked.
do it. Although the fucking comic this week, like I hadn't seen, I don't know if they showed in a trailer that Martian Manhunter was actually going to be confirmed showing up. Yeah. The fucking Justice League cover this week had the Snyder Cut version, and Martian Manhunter's on the first cover for it. And the way he looks in the fucking movie, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Wednesday, new comics come out. Thursday, the Snyder Cut came out.
Not well planned.
that pissed me off because I was like, the Joker has already been ruined, Darkseid and Granny Goodness and fucking everybody you see had Desaad, the big Desaad about him. But like you already got all the fucking cameos, and the Green Lantern thing already happened in the first cut of it, where like a Green Lantern dies, you see the ring fly off, and you're like, at least they confirmed the lanterns exist. So that was like the one cameo they didn't fucking ruin. And then this week I was like, cool. So Martian Manhunter shows up, and then when that scene happened, I was like, of course he fucking shows up right here. It was beautiful, but fuck.
Next difference, Deathstroke is in the nightmare scene now. He also still shows up, what is now a part of the movie instead of a post-credit scene. Not much need to be talked about him.
Yeah.
Still doesn't.
I love that actor though.
Oh, Joe
Manganiello.
Manganiello, yeah.
Yeah, he's a big D&D nerd.
Is he?
I fucking love
He's
him.
a good choice for the role.
He's like,
yeah,
arguably one of the biggest D&D nerds, like from the beginning in the world.
yeah.
Love him.
I'd like to see more of him. I didn't know. Again, this is a scene that was already in the movie, so I don't know if they need to cut it. He was also in the nightmare scene, like working with Batman, so that's cool.
So you're just like, how does he go from hating him
Yeah,
to working with
exactly.
him? Spite.
Matt's not a fan of it, but Darkseid is added to the movie. I liked the addition.
I was fine with Darkseid because it's the same way that in the Marvel movies you constantly kept seeing like a little Thanos thing in the background where you're like, oh, it's building to the big bad. I feel like it gave Steppenwolf some more depth because at least you knew what his motivations were, other than just like, oh, I'm just gonna pop down on Earth to fuck with. Oh, they have superheroes here, I guess. Like it was just stupid in the first round. This time, like, I get that he was, like, working towards, like, impressing. I mean, same thing in Guardians of the Galaxy. Ronan the Accuser, he was doing what he was doing to impress fucking Thanos. So
I feel like, though, so how I would have done that scene is, like, how you establish Steppenwolf as even more of a threat is you stick with, I know, the Whedon thing of him leading the invasion, and maybe you have Darkseid overseeing it, and then you have that, you have failed me, Steppenwolf, like, don't return until until you fucking get those boxes merged together and whatnot, rather than the whole, like, oh, you betrayed Darkseid, and so, or just, whatever.
But I feel like, once again, if they would have done that, people literally would have been like, oh, he's just Thanos. Like, it's just how, unless you're a DC fan watching it and knowing these things are already about DC, which people can argue, like, oh, did Apocalypse show up first in it, Marvel or DC, whatever. It's all, every time there's a big bad, they gotta compare. And I'm like, they're fucking nothing alike.
And that is never going to change.
And
either.
they think the anti-life equation is like, oh, is he going to snap and wipe out half the universe? I'm like, the anti-life equation is a fucking existential dread.
Yeah, it just is, it's like, whatever they want it to be is what it boils down to.
It's like how to make people so fucking helpless that they're ready to fucking die. Like, it's a whole thing, and it's going to sound stupid when you take it out of the comics, because let's be honest, it's fucking gibberish in the comics, but it's scary. Okay, shut up. It's like antimatter in the Marvel universe.
Next up is something that I think people are making way too big of a deal about. I didn't give a shit. I don't know how you guys feel about it. We are, as a people now, very used to seeing movies in 16:9 or 1.78 ratio.
Oh, the 4:3.
Zack Snyder admitted on Twitter and a bunch of interviews that he fell in love for whatever reason with the 4:3 aspect ratio, which is very close to what they use for IMAX. I a minute into the film, I didn't fucking notice, and I didn't care.
I didn't. What made me laugh at first was like they do like this is going to be like Zack Snyder's cut or whatever, and then they say like this is in this ratio for his original.
Right.
Like that made me laugh out loud because I'm like that sounds pretentious as shit.
It
Like
does.
you didn't need to tell me. You could have just been like this is presented in 4:3.
Yep.
Like that's, and I would have been like cool. Let my eyes adjust. I'm good. Like it did not bother me at all in this movie, but it was just like the pretension that went with it. I'm like you're gonna make the Snyder cut seem like the snobby shit that.
Some people think it is.
The bad fans are making it out to be. I'm like,
Yeah.
don't. That fucking made me laugh out loud. I was like, shut up.
Yeah, I had no problem with it.
The correct answer is who gives a shit.
Thank you.
The true Snyder cut is the way he cut the aspect ratio.
Let's talk about the score, because originally,
Danny Elfman.
Junkie XL or Tom
Tom
Hulkenborg
Hulkenberg?
he'd written the score already, 2 hours of it. Zack Snyder leaves. Joss Whedon starts talking shit in front of Tom Hulkenberg about Zack Snyder, who's one of his best friends, and gets fired the next day. And he brings in Danny Elfman. Now listen, all credit to Danny Elfman. He's a great composer. Love him. His music does not go with...
Does it work for 80s Batman? Hell yes.
Yes.
Does it work for now Justice League?
No. It was a bad decision to bring him in. So Tom
batch
Hulkenberg
decision.
didn't even use the 2 hours that he wrote. The whole situation with Joss turned him off. So he wrote an entirely new score for this film. And while some of his music I still am not a huge fan of, this score works so much better with this movie.
Yeah, I will say this isn't my favorite version, like my favorite score and work that he's done, but like the Mad Max work that he's done, like that's astounding, and that's a beautiful movie to begin with, and the soundtrack plays so much of a role in that. So I feel like since this was more like a superhero epic or whatever, he just did like the standard, like everybody has to have their own theme, first of all, they have to tie in at the correct moment, so it's a little more like not elementary, but like more structured in that like you know exactly why he's doing what he's doing and when. Whereas like Mad Max, you're just like, oh shit, fuck, and like that one, I still go hard to. I'll do dishes to that shit, and I'm like, screaming. In my
I didn't
kitchen.
buy Danny Elfman's Justice League score. I will probably buy Hulkenberg's score.
The lamentation music for the
this.
80th time. That's the one thing with the subtitles. I hate that every time they had to remind you it's the lamentation music. I'm like, we've heard it. We've heard it 6 times. We know the Amazons be sad.
But if I'm deaf, how do I know they're sad?
I do like though that like he anytime Diana was doing cool shit, like Zimmer and Tina Guo's theme would go in.
Yes, that was good.
Because it's so fucking epic.
I still love that theme so much.
Yeah, I'm a bit.
But I forgot to mention, because I almost put on Facebook while I was watching the movie, like, I'm glad some woman who sang the song got a lot of work out of this movie.
She's like, they used my track 8 times, do you know? And I was like, a lot of lamentation that movie, a lot of sadness.
One of the biggest things, one of the first previews that we saw of this movie was Steppenwolf's new design. I mean, listen, I think we all agree Steppenwolf looked like a goddamn idiot in the first movie. Like, I could have kicked Steppenwolf's ass.
He looked as bad as like Ares with the fucking mustache
at
the end of Wonder Woman. I was just like, oh,
I don't know if it's that
who's
bad.
this SpongeBob looking motherfucker? Like, I'll just knock him over. Squidward looking ass.
He got a new design, this awesome armor. His face got restructured, and he even has a kind of a newer
he literally
voice.
looked edgier.
Better, worse.
I mean, when the bar is so low, pretty much, it didn't take much to be better.
I hate when he takes off his, like, when he makes the uniform come off, I'm just like, you look like fucking Mr. Krabs without a shell. And I know it's supposed to show that he's, like, cowering before Darkseid. He's like, oh, I'm just trying to look edgy for my boss, and now I'm gonna... But I'm like, could you have just stayed pointy and, like, just been a douchey pointy dude instead of, like... I withered away into a sponge.
I liked how the CG worked with his armor constantly, like, reconfiguring while it was
to,
on.
like, block and stuff.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Well, no, just like when he was even standing... No, even when he was standing still, it just moved. It was metal, but it was also, like, organic.
Yeah,
shoot him in the face. No.
Yeah. Brittany, you already mentioned this. Desaad is added into this film. Lot of comparisons to
left more to be decided
from the Avengers and from Marvel.
Well, it's to fucking Squidward looking asshole.
Yeah.
Who's supposed to be? That's another thing. The Black Order. I have problems with Endgame.
I will agree with you on that front that they were completely done dirty.
I was like,
in
what a
those
bunch
films.
of dweebs.
Yeah. Did Desaad need to be added?
Nerds.
Yes or no?
Just for the fact that you have to show Darkseid's like little henchmen and show that like Steppenwolf, as cool and badass as he looked in this one, it's just like, oh, he's really a plebe. He's like squished beneath their feet.
As I've read one review that said in the Whedon version, Steppenwolf is like a boring villain, but in this movie he's like a middle management. So now he's a relatable boring villain.
Right. Well, basically.
Yeah. One of the bigger changes too is that the entire opening of this film has changed. You don't get the stupid like upper lip thing.
Although I will say the fact that it's Superman's death rattle that fucking activates the things, I had to suspend my disbelief because like I get that maybe it put out an energy wave strong enough that it affected the boxes, but the fact that it's like the death rattle of a Kryptonian, which shouldn't affect the boxes at all because the boxes were here long before Kryptonians actually were on this planet. Like there's a lot you have to suspend. So I'm just like, it's visually beautiful. I'll allow it. But in my mind, I was just like, the fucking death rattle of Superman.
I'm really glad that they referenced Batman versus Superman to open this movie.
You know, though, if they were going to do
better,
it, thank you. If they were going to do it, this was the way to do it. It made it work. I think I had to suspend my disbelief a little bit too. Oh, yeah. But as far as how they activated, it's a cool idea. Yeah. Well, it probably works better on the page than it does in a movie.
It's the same with Star Trek Discovery Season 3. You have to suspend your disbelief for the fact that the wailing of a super being
can't do it.
Had to
still
make it
happen.
But think about it. It's the same as the burn.
I know. I still
I'm just
can't
saying,
do it, though.
That's the only reason I allowed it is because I'm like, technically, did Discovery just do this and I allowed it? I have to accept it.
Okay.
Matt's like, I'm done.
The jokes. Gone.
Most
of them. Barry is now basically the sole comic relief of this movie, which is okay.
Cyborg a little bit.
Cyborg a little bit, but this is good. Like, he doesn't say booyah in this movie anymore, which, Jesus Christ.
There was no
trust me.
reason.
Jason Momoa still had his little moment.
He
My
did.
man, but
As Brittany and I were talking about that before we recorded, I said I felt like that they just wanted to have like Jason Momoa to have a moment where he's
Jason
himself.
Momoa. He has to have a moment. That lasso of true speech thing, though, with Arthur is gone. I thought the jokes were so bad, I've expelled a lot of them from my mind.
Well, it was like everybody hitting on Diana the first time around, and this time, the fact that Barry's the only one who says like 2 lines, but it makes sense because he's so fucking awkward and weird, and he's just like, "You think she'd ever go for me?" And Cyborg's like, "She is 5,000 years old. Everyone's younger than her," and doesn't even tell him yes or no. But I'm just like, see, that's funny, and then like you can get how they're like friends and this like group together. He knows he'll never have a shot at her, nor is he really fully invested in her. He's just fucking being funny because he's interested in Iris anyway. You're like.
Speaking of Diana, and you already mentioned it, the Bruce Diana arc is gone.
Yep.
Thank fucking God, because it was so bad.
I love that the whole scene in like the, not really the lair, but like the carrier or whatever, beforehand when they take off, like that whole stupid arguments, like you said, where she uses the lasso on Aquaman, all this other stuff, like none of that had to happen.
No, there's like a real planning session,
Yeah.
and they're that's the whole thing that makes this movie so much better. Now they're working as a team,
And they, without even saying it, they're like, "Are you thinking what I'm like?"
Yeah.
We're not going to say it out loud, but we're all thinking Superman, right? And you're like, "Yep." Instead of being like, "I fucking hate you. Fuck you, Bruce, for bringing up my boyfriend. I can't get over because I'm a woman whose whole
was
life
so
circles around her
fucking bad.
fucking boyfriend." Fuck you, Joss Whedon. We can see your self-insertion bullshit in here.
Oh my God.
Fuck you.
I think we could spend an entire episode just on the final fight. Being
love that.
drastically changed. The Russian family has been
Thank God.
completely cut from
Yes.
the
That
movie.
was such
Thank God.
stupid Avengers shit.
A
I was
lot
like,
of the
"Get it outta
action that
here."
was unfollowable is gone. It is just better. Superman doesn't come in with his stupid jokes and one-liners.
Batman
I
taking
believe.
down all the enemies and like going around on his own and like taking out the turrets and all that shit. That was cool.
That
I
was
like,
really
Batman, go
cool.
do your Batman shit while everybody
Yeah.
else is like, stick to the plan.
Yeah, I really like that. I liked that they restored. It's one of the cool things, like behind the scenes things that you saw when Snyder was making the film, like them all having fun with Momoa.
Yeah, and when he
Gal
flips the
Gadot
thing and he
Ray
drops
Fisher,
it,
and then he
yeah.
starts playing his guitar.
Yeah. And you're like, when does this? What scene was this
Yeah,
for?
because it was Joss made it so it was only Diana.
Yeah.
and then they made it a team thing again.
Yeah.
And,
And they only fought in the reactor in the Joss Whedon version, as opposed to like they went through the town a little bit and then went to the reactor, but like this was a lot more of like all the way there.
Over,
And the
yeah.
fact that they keep flying back and forth, they're all got such fucking crazy strength and speed, and they still meet up with the fucking Batmobile, whatever turret shit you want to call that. And like they even have the moment, that little United Avengers floating in slow motion moment, but it's like real quick, and then they're like, boom! And I'm like, fuck yes.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman takes some fucking shots, the block shit, she gets launched back, like,
the way that
it
Clark
flowed
comes in
so
is so much better when he just blocks that axe shot and
Oh,
he's just
yeah.
like not impressed.
Yeah.
Not, I believe in truth, justice, and the American way.
yeah, dude.
It was so
It's
bad.
also better because it shows that legitimately, like, he knows Cyborg's doing, like, the important shit, and he just jumps down, and he's like, you thought I was going to let you kill Cyborg, you dumb bitch, and just, like, went off.
I am eternally grateful that they cut out the whole idea of the parademons are drawn to fear and stuff like that.
Oh, and they made
Jesus
it make
God.
more sense, like, the parademons abducting people, like, right away. Like, the fact that Batman randomly runs into one on the roof in the beginning, like, you're just like, this is stupid as shit. This time around, they're just like, yeah, well, obviously they're coming after the scientists because they're related to these boxes. Like, everything makes sense.
Needs
Thank
to be said again. Henry Cavill, Superman reshoots, black suit. I mean,
Thank you. And even some of the stuff they brought back that they originally shot that, like, was already a thing. Because I feel like the reshoots, I know they said they had to reshoot a lot of the film, but, like, a lot of what they did reshoot was just, like, the extra shit.
yeah.
So a lot of the core stuff was still there where you're just like, why the fuck didn't we get the Superman?
Part of the reason they had to reshoot Superman was simply to get rid of the fucking mustache gate. Like, and thank God they did.
But that was a reshoot. That's a thing.
I know
Like,
it was a
originally-
reshoot of yes.
Yeah, like they had original footage, and everybody's like, "This fight scene's so cool." And then Joss Whedon brought them back at the last minute and was like, "I know you can't shave that mustache off, but I want to make this stupid as shit."
So dumb.
And then the beginning part where the kids are like filming, and he's just like, "Oh yeah."
Do you guys like the black suit?
Yes.
Yeah, looks
I love
fine.
it. That's what I needed. As much as I like, he didn't get a mullet, so whatever.
Kind of. I was.
Yeah, that was
kind
gonna
of
happen.
He wasn't.
I knew he wasn't gonna have a mullet.
and obviously you could see there's just a little bit of change in Henry Cavill's face because this is shot a few years after, but like he actually looks more in shape and more like Superman in this movie again because of CG than he did in Justice League. So I'm like stoked with the three shoots. I said this again. We don't need to spend a lot of time on it. The Flash Iris West scene is restored. great. I didn't
I
like
like seeing him touch the glass and like the.
that was really cool. I didn't like the music while he was like saving Iris, and I
Yeah, I
thought
don't
like he
remember.
didn't need to grab the hot dog.
Oh, he didn't. That was just his cover for the dogs, but like,
Oh,
yeah,
him
but it was
him
awkward.
caressing Iris a little bit.
I thought at first he was going to grab the hot dog to save later to eat because
right.
I'm like,
Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but then
'cause
when he was
Barry.
with the dogs, and he's like, and I always keep. He just really wanted to like
Get
seem
that job.
weird and get the
Yeah.
job, but he was so obvious that he had something to do with what went on outside because he was like, yeah, oh my god, crazy things happen in the city all the time. Like, calm down, hun, you're getting the job.
A lot of setup for Aquaman was restored in this. So the Arthur and Volko scene where he gets the trident and his armor. I'm happy they put that in there.
Aquaman was better in this movie.
He was. He was. Amber Heard has a British accent now instead of an American accent. I don't remember if she has a British accent in the movie in Aquaman or not.
No, she doesn't. I
So
think.
that's a little bit of a weird.
And the thing is that in Aquaman, they also gave her the crazy red wig and shit. Like, she
Yeah.
looks more
She looks
believably
better in this
Mara
movie.
in Justice League.
I know Brittany and I did briefly talk about this as well before we recorded. Every time they need to have a conversation underwater, she had to create an air bubble. Just have them talk underwater. God damn it.
That
We
shit kills
get
me
it.
because it's like, if people are this far down, like, you can all breathe underwater. And the fact that she does it during the Steppenwolf fight still bugs me because I'm like, this is
You're
a
going
dude.
to take the time to do
yeah.
that, right?
Well, also, this is a being from another area or whatever, and they're attacking you, and he's underwater, but you also don't know, does he need air to survive? Why would you strategically, being someone who can survive underwater without breathing, being attacked by another enemy, think that like, oh, let me do this air bubble so you get 5 lines of dumbass dialogue, which were flat as shit.
Yeah, that scene was
So, yeah,
a little.
there
that
were
scene was
some,
a little
like,
off.
ugh,
Yeah,
that's
that's another one that probably could have been.
Well, that was like when they announced like, we have scouts that are being like taken, but then they give you the stupid fucking flashback because he can't just tell you; he has to show you. This is what happened. Here's a little Starro thing, ooh, but it's not really Starro to show like what happened, and this is how he got the information to get there. I'm like, no, I can assume that he's smart enough to fucking track the box to Atlantis. You don't have to tell me he stole scouts. Show me he stole scouts later, and waste 5 minutes of time.
Yeah.
So, like
Again.
I said, didn't have to be 4 hours because. He just really wanted to show the audience. Are you sure you're following? Are you sure you're following?
Brittany's in mic grabbing mode.
And I'm like, even if you don't read DC Comics, like, we're fucking following. Like, it's impossible to not. You put it in slow motion. So even if you're stupid enough to miss it, it's slow enough that you caught on. Thank you.
We've talked about this already, and it's definitely for the better. Way more Cyborg and Silas Stone. Silas Stone does not live in this movie, which makes Cyborg's role even better. His father gets killed in this movie. He sacrifices himself, which is a damn.
That's the part I don't like, though.
No.
Because it's for the stupidest fucking reason. If it was for a legit reason, I'm sorry, he had to lock himself in here. Couldn't have stood on the outside and pressed the button.
Sure.
To superheat this box so that we can track it to fucking Chechnya or wherever the fuck they went. Like, that annoyed me because I'm like, once again, he already lost one parent. This is your only black character. Already lost his mom. And then you have him lose his dad, who at least lived in the other version. Like, his dad was already, like, making up with him with the fact that, like, he rolled in with a fucking casket and his dad's like,
you cool?
no, we're good. We're
on.
good.
Keep going.
Everything's fine. They didn't have to rebuild their, like, relationship fully, but, like, to have him lose it, Cyborg already had the motivation now to be a hero. He had the drive. He knew everything. He didn't need his dad to die in front of him to fucking heat up a box. Like, a microwave could heat up a fucking box. But they're like, let's superheat it to the temperature that we mentioned earlier. But he had to disintegrate himself. It looked cool. Don't get me wrong. I've seen Resident Evil. You know that part where the laser cuts through the dude's eye and it goes all goopy? That was what it was like.
I actually.
But did Silas Stone have to die?
Go ahead.
No.
No, Brittany's good.
Anyway, watch Doom Patrol.
No, actually, when he got vaporized, my first thought was Dr. Manhattan's vaporizing in Watchmen.
Yeah,
That's what it reminded me
looked
of, like
that
the
so much.
like the skin skeleton all vaporizing. I was like,
I was hoping. Part of me was like, did he just kill himself or did he maybe teleport? But no, stupid.
I'm gonna blow through a couple of these because they're not as important. But that Star Labs infiltration scene was not in the original. That's been added with the coffin. Better. Ryan Choi is added back into the movie, who is the Atom. Big.
And that's another thing. The waitress too. It's like, why did you cut out these characters?
For real. They could have very much
So good.
stayed. Lois Lane was not as lost as she was. She was already back at the Daily Planet in the Whedonverse. This one shows how much she's grieving Clark. I think it works, and I think Amy Adams does a great job as Lois.
Yeah, she made more sense in this version.
Yeah.
Once again, she had more meaningful scenes instead of being fucking undertowed by a joke every 5 seconds.
Brittany, you already mentioned it. Martha getting Martianed. That's how IGN had it. That is not my joke.
The Martha Manhunter is what I like to call
Oh
it.
my god!
What'd you say, Martha?
Rated R language and gore.
It was fine. It wasn't too much.
It wasn't.
Like,
It was
when they
fine.
did curse, I was
The
like,
only
"Ew."
person that cursed was Bruce. I think.
No, I think
And
Aquaman
Cyborg,
once?
and maybe
Or
Cyborg?
Aquaman, and
Yeah.
Bruce once each, I think.
Extended action sequences. Again, that makes things a little long.
Yeah.
I liked all the action, though.
I really liked the fact that they added Clark using his heat beam on Bruce.
It's so much better in that
It
scene.
is.
And like they still kept in the headbutt thing, which is just funny because they're referencing the Matrix.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll allow that.
Yeah. But I dug that. And yeah, that was much better.
Mm-hmm.
Batman tech side quests, again with his gauntlets and trying to fix his shit.
But I like how he bases it off of one, and she's like, sure, he thought
Yeah,
about that
I
himself.
love that.
But that's
Yeah,
great because it
yeah,
shows
yeah.
their dynamic because Batman adapts to the people around him. He has backup plans. So it's like, of course he learned from what helps Diana fucking fight Superman. Like,
the post-credit scenes are gone. One of them is completely gone. One of them is just added as part of the movie. The one that is gone is the Flash vs Superman race, which is a scene from the comics.
yeah, that one was just cute.
It was cute. I didn't
but
need to see it.
You didn't
again.
need it.
No.
And now with that, it would have been messed up because you know for a fact in this version, yeah, he's fucking faster than Superman
Yep.
because he literally rebuilt time. Which you can
Exactly.
argue in the original version he flies around the
Well,
earth
you
backwards.
wouldn't have the scene
Yeah.
in the whole like, oh, Darkseid's coming. Let's have a cute race.
right.
Yeah.
That's what their list has. Did I miss anything? I'm sure
mean,
they
there's-
missed
there's
a
a-
few
there's a
things.
ton of
There's
shit.
a ton. It's
Yeah.
a lot of it's just like if they kept in any quote Whedon scene, they at least took out the shit moments that made it so.
No,
cringe.
shits works.
They took out the cringier moments of it, which are normally like ass shots of Wonder Woman, etc.
Let's wrap this up with a couple of quick questions here. Warner Brothers has said that this movie, this Snyder Cut, will not impact anything moving forward with the DCEU. I would have believed that a week ago.
Oh yeah.
I would have believed that a week ago, but you have the entire internet basically saying this is the definitive cut of Justice League. It should be, and the question now is, should Snyder, even though he's saying it won't happen, but he got this to happen, so I don't buy it, get the opportunity to finish telling his story with Justice League 2 and 3?
So my belief is I'm happy Zack Snyder got to finally tell his version of the movie and we all got to see it. I'm happy that the fan support was such that this was able to occur. But I do think that the DC universe needs different eyes, different talents in it. Kind of like what they're doing with, because you had something like Shazam, which has a vastly different feel from what the Batman looks
And even
like.
like Aquaman had a different director
Yep.
and stuff.
Yes, and so you need, and I don't say Zack Snyder is a bad director because he's not, even though he hasn't made great movies in recent years. But I do believe that somebody else should be taking the reins from him going forward. And I personally think they're going to do a Flashpoint and just,
Well, they are. It's filming.
yeah.
I feel like they might have him do just the Justice League movies himself, like how the Russo brothers do the that stuff and specific movies. But overall, like how Marvel gives certain directors different things for different movies, especially now they're getting better with that. But I think the DC movies could be the same way. He doesn't have to be in control of every single DC movie. But the continuity of the Justice League ones, I think WB is they're going to go with what's going to make them money. If they see the amount of people who really like this version, they're not going to give him $1 billion to do 4-hour movies for the next 2 again. But it's like, okay, well, next time around, you can do Justice League 2 again or 3 and at least finish. Or there's so many threads that'll be picked up in other films. Like, automatically, you go back and watch Aquaman now, the lead up to Aquaman because of this movie is better,
So much
whether or
better.
not you like Aquaman.
And this
The
movie
lead up
sets
to
a flashpoint.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, like, you already kind of knew Flash would happen because of, like, the way he goes back in time and warns Bruce and all this other stuff happens. But this already set up his to be better, and whether or not you were going to see Flash before, a lot of people are like, well, I like Flash a little more now, so I'll probably see that movie. Especially if the Speed Force is going to fucking look like that.
Yeah. I'm at a weird halfway point with this because I like the direction they're going. We're getting, these movies aren't connected anymore. They said the DC universe isn't going to be this connected thing. Robert Pattinson's Batman isn't connected to Aquaman
doesn't
or
have
Wonder
to
Woman.
be.
It doesn't have to be. And what I think could work with this is the Snyderverse can still exist.
Yeah.
But it could be its own pocket universe like they're doing with all of these other things. So let him do Justice League 2 and 3.
Well, it's
They
like
don't
the
have to
DC
be
animated universe.
Yes.
There were some that fit a specific chronology, and then there's other ones that were just outliers or alternate timelines. So,
but I mean, how can you do another Justice League movie? Because didn't Ben Affleck say he's not doing Batman
Yeah.
anymore?
I guarantee.
Well, that's the thing.
I
But
bet
after
you
this cut-
anything. I bet you anything. Zack Snyder says you want to do Justice League 2 and 3. He's back. He reshot scenes for this.
because people are already praising him and saying like, "Oh, Batflick, I'm actually okay with him now," or like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
I mean,
so-
I am. I would
Yeah.
like to.
I like this version better.
And then I read Zack Snyder said that we get the confirmation in this movie that Lois is pregnant, and that
I don't like what you're about to bring up.
I like
No,
it.
I
think it's such a. I
detest
think
it.
it's.
I
I
think
think
it's
it's
so
such a
stupid.
different.
Oh, I know what that article you shared.
I think it's such a different change. I don't know why I like it, but I like it that their kid, whether it's Jonathan Kent or one of the other ones, becomes Batman at the end of this trilogy. I don't know. I kind of like it. I don't know why, but I do. I don't know.
The only next Batman is Terry McGinnis.
As long as it makes sense, whatever.
Well,
but,
right, I know.
I'm just like,
Good luck.
Just they're pulling at threads here.
Let him finish his trilogy, and then he could be done in the DC universe.
He can never do movies again.
Yeah.
For all I care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that being said, even if somebody just picks up with it, if it's at least if they're gonna work together the way they do now, and the plots make sense, I don't care if there's 2 more Justice League movies do it. But I'm just glad that because this wasn't another fucking flop, I know DC will be okay. Because if this version would have been fucking terrible, or God forbid worse than the Whedon one,
it would
DC's
really
movies
fuck DC
would have been
up.
done, and which is a shame because Birds of Prey did well. All these other movies, they're experimenting more and having different directors, and I'm fine. I love DC. I love Marvel. I've never not loved both, and it feels nice to at least this is finally I saw a Justice League. It's not necessarily the perfect version of the Justice League, but they felt more like a team than the other version, and I feel good. Now when I think of it, I'm just going to think of this version, and that's all I need.
Which finally leads me to something that we've brought up a couple times, but I want to get your definitive answers on this. Warner has stated that Whedon's Justice League is the quote-unquote definitive version of the film. Do you agree? And second, do you think that they should walk back on this?
They're going to walk it back.
Yeah, they said that just because they didn't know for sure if the Snyder Cut was ever going to be made, and if it did, if it was going to bomb or not. So that was their fallback. They're just well, technically right now, we want you to know we only side with this original one because at least it wasn't a 0 out of 10. It's a this out of 10. But now that they have it, and HBO Max and this whole thing, WB is going to suck that the fuck up. The merch they already made for it, they got comic artists from now. Jim Bartel did an insane, Superman, as much as I'm done with him being a fucking Christ allegory, because one, it's a Jewish symbol, if anything, so just stop.
Is the cover here? I want to buy.
No, it's a T-shirt that has him on it, but instead of the ring that you have when you're a saint or whatever, it's all the symbols of the other Justice League members around his head, and it looks so fucking cool, and it's in black and white.
I have to buy this shirt. You have to send me a
I'll
link,
send it
please.
to you. Hopefully, it's not a limited thing that it was only the other day, but yeah, they're gonna roll back on it, and they might say that oh, that's the official theatrical release, the Whedon one, so we have to acknowledge it exists. They're gonna be but this one is the Justice League. There's no way they can bank on so much money, so much potential, and reinvigorate the DC universe if they do that.
Yeah, they'd be stupid to not walk back and say that this is the Justice League, that if they're making any more of these movies that they're going to follow up on.
I mean, WB redid that. They let the Animaniacs come back because money.
Yeah.
From Hulu. You're telling me they're not going to be oh, the Justice League just made us, people actually fucking signed up for HBO Max for this? Don't get me wrong. HBO Max is actually one of my favorite streaming services.
It's really good.
They have so much good shit. Even
we
the
are
Studio
not.
Ghibli
We are
movies.
not HBO Max.
I'm not
shills.
a Pete Chill. I was just surprised because I was this is kind of expensive, but I pretty much exclusively watch HBO unless it's oh, gotta hop over to this for Snowpiercer. Gotta hop over to this for something else.
I'm an HBO Max shill.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they got me with the fucking Harley Quinn show, and I stayed.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah, I'm with you guys. They better walk back on it. It would be dumb of them not to.
They better run the Flash backwards.
Especially.
They better undo it.
Especially, and I tried not to mention it this whole show, but it deserves mentioning now, especially with the shit that Whedon is in.
Oh.
I mean,
yeah.
It's stupid for them
and
not
the fact
to.
that this basically proves as much as poor Ray Fisher has been fucking blacklisted in the industry because of what he said. This proves, there should prove that people should watch it and be Ray Fisher is amazing and he was 100% right and you need to let go whatever the fuck he said because he said it because he was angry. All
right. It is rating time out of 5 mother boxes. Zack Snyder's The Justice League. Matt.
You guys can go first. I'll wait.
I will go. So, I will give it 4 out of 5 mother boxes because overall I think this is an 8 out of 10 superhero movie at best. And that's just my opinion because it's, awesome. But not perfect and nothing really ever is. But that being said, compared to the theatrical version, we know that I'll rate it a 5 out of 5 because it's a 10 out of 10 compared to that version in my head. So you have 2 different ratings for me, but overall, I will always stick to 8 out of 10. You'll watch it 10 years from now and be it didn't really need to be that long. But for now, it's the Justice League we need for now for the DC universe to actually fucking please move forward.
So I'll go. I know Julian's gonna kind of go, God damn it! But
No, I
okay.
won't.
I'll go like with a 3.75. It's obviously
That's barely less than what I said.
well, I mean, no, but I know Julian's never a fan of me doing like either.
You could do
3.5.
I'm not a fan of that.
You've said in the past.
No,
I
he,
know
he
you
does
have.
decimals too. I'm the
I
one who
do.
forget about decimals until you guys say them, and then I'm like, fuck.
No, I feel like a previous episode you mentioned something about.
Maybe I did it. Maybe I was mad that.
But yeah, it's. I mean,
3.6 repeating.
yes, it is miles better than the Whedon version. I don't feel it needed to be that long. I didn't like about the whole dark side stuff, and there was some stuff that I felt they could have been done differently. But as I said, I'm happy he got his vision out as he intended it, and I'm happy that this movie will supplant the shitty Whedon version going forward.
See, no Snyder remarks there.
Oh man,
I'm with Brittany. It's a 4 out of 5 as a standalone. If Whedon's had never come out against Whedon's, it is a 5 out of 5, and that's not bullshitting anything. That's just a fact. Whedon's version is.
I love dunking on Whedon now. I've been waiting like a decade for people to catch up on the fucking bullshit.
I still think
of
the
this man.
Avengers is a great movie, the original Avengers, but like that's kind of a I don't know.
Yeah, it's also hard because like when it came out, there was nothing like it. So
Right,
you're just,
exactly.
it's enshrined as like, you go back now and you're like,
pop
meh.
culture.
Yeah, 4 out of 5. Long live the Snyder Cut. Long may it rain. This is a fantastic piece of filmmaking, especially if you are a Zack Snyder fan. That needs to be said. So
Yeah, didn't get a 5 out of 5 because the fucking use of Hallelujah. I'm done with that song. If movies and shows could not use Hallelujah for 10 years, just stop
That
for
would
10
be
years.
great.
How will
and
the
then come
audience
back,
know we're
I'll
sad?
Be fine. And I know that was like his fuck you moment to Joss Whedon, but still, I was just like, you really had to do this to me?
guys, I have to say, we've been talking about this for so long. It has been a pleasure specifically recording this episode because
It's a relief.
it is a relief. Like, thank God that it's
I'm
as
glad
good
we
as it
don't
is.
have to talk about it anymore. Does that make sense?
No, it does.
Yeah.
No, I know what you're talking about. Not in the sense of like, thank God we don't have to talk about Rise of Skywalker anymore. Thank God in the sense that like this is a relief.
Yeah.
So this has been our Zack Snyder's Justice League review. I think our next review special is going to be either
Mortal Kombat,
or are we doing Godzilla vs Kong?
Oh, I want to do that
I
too.
do want to watch Godzilla.
All right, so we're gonna do that. That'll be next, and then Mortal Kombat.
Whatever we can run a theater for, I'm doing it every time.
There you go.
As long as my budget allows, of course.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening to our Zack Snyder's Justice League review special. We will see you next time. Have a good night.
You can find Everything is Permitted on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Everything is Permitted is produced by Rob Bigliaccio, Nikki Veazey, and Geneva Stein-Shivers. Our executive producers are Michael Cox, Brittany Tomes and the Tomes family, and Julian Brown.